It was several years later that we started to realise that Peter's short-term memory loss was disappearing quite rapidly.
As it developed, she found it increasingly difficult to sustain her life alone. She wasn't cooking, she couldn't cook, she was collecting and hoarding paper.
Because she's not like a baby who never grows. Like, you have to take care of her and treat her like a baby, but whereas a baby, you know that one day the baby will grow, but for my grandma, she'll never grow again.
It's not been an easy time for us as a family watching him go through that, because before that he used to be so full of life, and it is difficult.
And Peter was a great card player, loved bridge, competitive bridge, not just social bridge, and had a very good brain for anything like that, and suddenly he couldn't comprehend the rules of a new, fairly simple card game. It became even more noticeable after that. He would take Charlie the dog out for a walk and not realise where he was. He'd set off in the car and was unable to tell where he was.
Last month was her birthday, and unfortunately she couldn't remember it. She was a bit confused and a bit disorientated, didn't really know what was happening. But what is noticeable in her character is that there is still she's still keen to make conversation, very small, and she's very well mannered, always says please and thank you. So it's quite interesting to see what remains as, you know, important things to do in a mind which has been affected by Alzheimer's.
You can see a glimmer in his eye, as if he almost recognises you, but he won't be able to put a name to the face most of the time.
I can remember on one occasion going to the theatre, and after the first interval, Peter didn't return to his seat. He'd gone to the toilet and ended up on the wrong floor and took the wrong seat. And it wasn't until the end that I found him again. But he smiled at everybody, and all the neighbours chatted to him, and he was always very optimistic and very happy and unaware of what was going on.
We do regular visits up to him up near Liverpool, and I remember we were having lunch one day and we sit at opposite ends of the table, and he was looking at me and I could tell he's giving me like a funny look. So, but we carried on eating, and then it got to the end of the meal, and then eventually he just leant over to his wife and said, "Who's that?" and pointed at me across the table. And then like my mum, my brother and my granny were all sitting there, and they had to explain to him that I was his grandson. And despite the fact like I knew why it was happening, it's still like it is tough, and it's kind of, but you have to remember like there's no malice intended in it. It's just he simply can't remember much else.
It was at this stage that we had to seek help, and one of the first things we did, I took Peter to the doctor for him to test, and they said yes, he had got short-term memory loss, and sent him to hospital to have more tests done on, you know, the impact it had on the brain, and it was quite severe even at that stage. Could we have done anything earlier? Peter was loath to break away from his normal routine, and it was very hard to accept that there was something really seriously wrong. Eventually, he went to a weekly group that met together, and at the end of 6 months they said that because Peter was didn't want to join in all the activities, they felt that it wasn't doing him any good and suggested he should go elsewhere. So he went to another day group, which again only lasted for about 4 months, and they again had problems with his behaviour and the fact that he didn't understand words. And Peter went into a care home. It took him a long time to adapt to living away from home, and you always wonder if you should have persevered a little longer, but I don't think I could have done. And eventually he had to be moved to yet another home, and within a week he had pneumonia and was taken into hospital. And it was 2 weeks later, when he was dismissed from hospital, that he died.
Mum goes to visit him more often than I do now. They've decided, her and her 3 brothers, that every week one of the siblings goes to have lunch with him in the care home, so that he's still able to see. Well, they all want to see him more before he eventually goes, which we think won't be much longer. But my mum, she's still fairly positive, and she comes back and you can, like, I ask her how's he doing, and she says, like, oh, it's hard seeing him like this.
My recommendation to anybody who's meeting up with the same problem at home is seek help as soon as possible. Get in touch with the Alzheimer's Society, who give tremendous support. We joined a group called Singing Together, and this was of a huge benefit to myself as well as to Peter. Just to be able to meet up with other people in the same situation and enjoy singing together. Something that Peter had always enjoyed tremendously.